You're sitting in your car right now, maybe listening to this while you drive to a job you don't love to pay for things you don't need to impress people you don't even like. And here's the part that'll make your stomach drop. This isn't an accident. This isn't bad luck. This is by design. Most people don't lose money because they're stupid. They lose money because the system is engineered to extract every dollar from your paycheck before you even realize what happened. And the scariest part, you volunteered for it. My name is Raza, and I've spent the last 5 years studying why two people can make the exact same salary, live in the same city, and one ends up financially free, while the other is trapped in a cycle of payments, stress, and quiet desperation. The answer isn't what you think. It's not about discipline. It's not about budgeting. It's about understanding that you're playing a rigged game and the house always wins unless you know the rules. Here's what I'm going to show you in the next 20 minutes. First, I'll expose the consumption trap that has you working harder every year while feeling more broke every month. Then I'll walk you through the psychology they use against you, the credit system that's bleeding you dry, and most importantly, the exact playbook to escape this financial prison without earning another dollar. Because here's the truth they don't want you to know. You don't need more money. You need fewer chains. Let's start with something that happened to me 3 years ago. I was making decent money, around $70,000 a year. I had convinced myself I was doing well. I had a nice car, a decent apartment, the latest iPhone, and I was eating out whenever I wanted. On paper, I looked successful, but every month I'd check my bank account and wonder where the hell all my money went. Sound familiar? That's when I realized I wasn't building wealth. I was performing wealth, and there's a massive difference between the two. See, the consumption trap isn't about being poor. It's about spending money to feel rich instead of building actual wealth. It's invisible because everyone around you is doing it. Your coworkers, your friends, your family, we're all trapped in the same cycle, and we call it normal. Here's the cycle that owns most people's lives. You work 40 to 60 hours a week. You get paid. You immediately spend that money on lifestyle expenses, debt payments, and things that make you feel temporarily successful. By the end of the month, you're broke again. So you work harder, maybe get a raise, and then spend even more because now you can afford it. Rinse and repeat for 40 years. This isn't living. This is financial slavery with better marketing. The system doesn't need you poor. That would be bad for business. The system needs you consuming. There's a huge difference. Poor people can't buy anything, but consumers are gold mines. They'll work their entire lives to pay for things they don't own, using money they don't have to maintain a lifestyle they can't afford. And here's the psychological warfare they're using against you every single day. You've been programmed since childhood to associate spending with success, happiness, and self-worth. Every commercial, every social media post, every movie you've ever watched has been conditioning you to believe that you are what you buy. That your value as a human being is directly correlated to your consumption level. They've created a culture where buying something feels like an achievement, where retail therapy is a real thing, people say with a straight face. Where buy now, pay later isn't seen as debt but as convenience. And my personal favorite, where a credit score has become more important than actual wealth. Think about that for a second. We've created a system where your ability to borrow money is considered more valuable than your ability to not need to borrow money in the first place. This is where it gets really dark. They sell you a lifestyle, then rent it back to you with interest. That car payment isn't just a monthly expense. It's a monthly reminder that you don't actually own the thing you drive every day. That mortgage isn't home ownership. It's a 30-year rental agreement with extra steps. Those credit card payments aren't building anything. They're paying for experiences you already had with money you'll earn in the future. Credit is the silent wealth killer that most people never see coming. It feels harmless at first. Actually, it feels helpful. Need a car? Here's a loan. Want to go on vacation? Here's a credit card. Want to buy furniture for your new place? No problem. 0% interest for 12 months. What they don't tell you is that credit is just future labor sold at a discount. Every dollar you borrow is a dollar your future self has to earn plus interest plus opportunity cost. Let me show you the math that'll make your head spin. Let's say you finance a $25,000 car at 6% interest over 5 years. Your monthly payment is about $483. Over 5 years, you'll pay almost $29,000 for a car that's worth maybe $15,000 when you're done. But here's the part that should keep you awake at night. If instead of making those car payments, you invested that same $483 every month in a basic index fund earning 7% annually, after 5 years you'd have over $34,000. And here's the kicker. You'd still have that $34,000 after 5 years, while the car is sitting in your driveway worth half what you paid for it. This is the opportunity cost of lifestyle debt. It's not just the money you spend. It's all the money that money could have made if you'd invested it instead. Every finance purchase is a choice between temporary gratification and long-term wealth. And most people are choosing gratification every single time. There's a difference between productive debt and lifestyle debt, and understanding this difference will change your entire financial life. Productive debt makes you money. A mortgage on a rental property, a business loan that generates income, student loans for a degree that dramatically increases your earning potential. These can be smart uses of debt because they pay for themselves. Lifestyle debt, on the other hand, is debt used to fund consumption. Car loans, credit cards, financing for furniture, electronics, vacations. This debt doesn't make you money. It costs you money every single month while providing zero return on investment. Here's the rule that'll save you from financial ruin. If it depreciates, don't finance it. If you can't afford to buy it with cash, you can't afford it. Period. I know that sounds harsh, but this rule alone will keep you out of the consumption trap that destroys most people's financial future. Now, let's talk about cars, because they're probably the biggest wealth destroyer in most people's lives. The average American has a car payment of over $500 a month. $500 a month for something that loses 20% of its value the moment you drive it off the lot. Something that continues to depreciate every single day you own it. Something that requires insurance, maintenance, repairs, and gas. Cars don't just cost what you pay for them. They cost what you pay for them, plus all the ongoing expenses, plus all the money you could have made if you'd invested the payments instead. But here's what really gets me angry. We've been conditioned to think that our car reflects our success. That driving a 3-year-old Honda instead of a brand new BMW somehow makes us less valuable as people. This is insane. Your car gets you from point A to point B. Everything else is ego. And ego is expensive. Here's what your car payment is really costing you, and I'm not talking about the sticker price. I'm talking about the real cost that nobody calculates, because if they did, they'd walk off every car lot empty-handed. Let's say you're financing that $30,000 SUV because you need something reliable for your family. Noble intention, terrible execution. Here's the math they don't want you to see. That car payment isn't just stealing $500 from your checking account every month. It's stealing your future, because compound interest works both ways. It can work for you or it can work against you. And when you're making payments, it's working against you with ruthless efficiency. Over 7 years, you'll pay around $42,000 for that $30,000 car. But if you had invested that $500 monthly instead, earning a modest 8% return, you'd have over $57,000. The difference, you'd have $17,000 more cash. Plus, you wouldn't own a depreciating asset that's worth maybe $12,000 by the time you're done paying for it. So your cute family SUV didn't cost you $30,000. It cost you $69,000 in real wealth. Nice job, champ. But wait, it gets worse, because you don't just pay for the car. You pay for premium insurance on the car you're still paying for. You pay for maintenance on the car you don't own. You pay for repairs on the car that's bleeding value every single day. And here's my favorite part. You pay storage fees for the car you can't afford to lose, because if it gets stolen or totaled, you still owe more than it's worth. This is called being upside down, and it's where most car owners live their entire driving lives. Now let me blow your mind with a different approach. Buy a 3 to 5-year-old Honda Civic or Toyota Camry with cash. Let's say $8,000. Boring? Absolutely. But here's what's not boring. You own it completely. The insurance is cheaper. The registration is cheaper. And when something breaks, you fix it instead of trading it in for an even bigger payment. That $8,000 car will drive you to the exact same job, the exact same grocery store, and the exact same life as the $40,000 car. The only difference is you'll arrive with money instead of debt. And before you tell me you need the latest safety features for your family, let me remind you that people survived decades of driving without backup cameras and lane departure warnings. Your grandfather drove a car with no airbags and somehow lived long enough to create your existence. I think you'll be fine in a 2019 Camry. But while cars destroy wealth through depreciation, this next trap destroys it through interest. And it's the one nobody wants to talk about: housing. The real estate industry has convinced an entire generation that renting is throwing money away, and that buying the biggest house you can qualify for is smart financial planning. But here's the truth. Your house is not an investment. It's shelter with a financing plan attached. Let me give you the math that banks hope you never calculate. A $300,000 mortgage at 5% interest over 30 years cost you $579,000 total. That means you pay $279,000 in interest alone. That is nearly double the purchase price just for the privilege of not buying with cash, and it gets worse. Like on that calculation assumes you stay in the house for 30 years, but most people move every 7 years. This means they're constantly resetting their mortgage clock and primarily paying interest to the bank instead of building equity for themselves. Don't let the bank decide how much house you can afford, because if you're house poor, you have no cash flow to invest, and that is exactly where the system wants you. This brings us to the third category of wealth destruction: clothes and furniture, the stuff you buy to make your life look like an Instagram post. Here's the truth about clothes. Nobody cares what you're wearing as much as you think they do. Clear's throat, and the people who do care, those aren't your people anyway. You're spending money. You don't have to impress people you don't like with clothes that will be out of style next season. That's not fashion. That's financial insanity. I know a guy who spent $1,200 on a single jacket because it was the right brand. $1,200 for something that literally just keeps you warm. You know what else keeps you warm? A $50 jacket from Costco. The difference isn't the warmth. The difference is the story you're telling yourself about who you are based on what you own. The same logic applies to furniture. You don't need a $2,000 couch. You need somewhere to sit. Facebook Marketplace is full of people selling beautiful furniture for a fraction of retail price, because they're upgrading to keep up with some imaginary standard they saw in a magazine. Their poor financial decisions become your smart financial opportunities. But here's where people get defensive. They say, "Nick, I work hard for my money. I deserve nice things." And you're right. You do deserve nice things, but what you really deserve is financial peace. You deserve to sleep at night without worrying about money. You deserve to walk away from a toxic job because you have options. You deserve to take risks and chase dreams because you're not trapped by payments. Those are the nice things that actually matter. The fourth wealth destroyer is entertainment. We've created a culture where fun requires a subscription. Netflix, Spotify, Disney+, Amazon Prime, gym memberships we don't use, apps we forgot we downloaded, death by 1,000 tiny cuts. Each one seems harmless. It's only $12 a month, but $12 times 20 subscriptions times 12 months is almost $3,000 a year for what? The privilege of having more content than you could consume in 3 lifetimes. Here's a radical idea. Fun doesn't need a monthly payment. Walking is free. Reading books from the library is free. Cooking at home with friends is basically free. Having actual conversations with people is free. Playing board games is free after you buy them once. Watching sunsets, surprisingly, still free. We've been conditioned to think that entertainment has to cost money, but the most memorable experiences usually don't. I'm not saying live like a hermit. I'm saying be intentional. Ask yourself if this monthly payment is actually making your life better, or if it's just another chain keeping you tied to the hamster wheel. Because here's what nobody talks about. Every recurring payment is a vote for staying exactly where you are. It's a vote for needing that job, that salary, that level of stress just to maintain your current lifestyle. Now, here's the part that changes everything. The hidden advantage of spending less isn't just the money you save, it's the control you gain. When you need less money to live, you need less to tolerate. Bad boss, you can afford to quit. Toxic relationship, you can afford to leave. Dream opportunity that pays less initially, you can afford to take the risk. This is why frugality isn't about deprivation. It's about buying your freedom $1 at a time. Most people think the path to wealth is earning more money. That's like trying to fill a bucket with holes in the bottom. You can pour water faster, but you're still going to lose most of it. The real secret is plugging the holes first, because every dollar you don't waste becomes a dollar that can work for you instead of against you. Here's the mindset shift that changed my life. I stopped asking, can I afford this? And started asking, what is this really costing me? Because everything has an opportunity cost. That $200 dinner isn't just $200. It's $200 that could have been invested, grown, and eventually become $300,500 or $1,000, depending on how long you let compound interest work its magic. This is where we separate the consumers from the builders. Consumers ask how much something costs. Builders ask what something is worth. Consumers focus on monthly payments. Builders focus on total cost of ownership. Consumers buy things to feel successful. Builders buy assets to become successful. And here's the beautiful irony. The less you spend on meaningless stuff, the more money you have for meaningful stuff. Want to travel the world? Stop financing cars and you'll have a travel fund. Want to start a business? Stop buying clothes to impress coworkers and you'll have startup capital. Want to retire early? Stop paying interest to banks and start collecting interest from investments. The beautiful thing about escaping the consumption trap is that it's not about becoming some extreme minimalist who lives in a van and eats beans for every meal. Although, if that's your thing, more power to you. It's about becoming intentional with your choices instead of letting marketing algorithms decide how you spend your paycheck. Here's what most people don't realize. Every dollar you don't waste becomes an employee working for you. Think about that for a second. That $5 coffee you buy without thinking. If you invested that $5 every day instead, earning a 10% return after 30 years, you'd have over $300,000. That single daily coffee habit is literally worth more than most people's retirement accounts. But nobody thinks about it that way because a $5 coffee feels harmless. It's just $5, right? Wrong. It's $5 plus 30 years of compound interest. That's the most expensive cup of coffee in human history. This is where we need to talk about where your money should actually go once you stop bleeding it through lifestyle debt. Because saving money just to have it sit in a checking account earning 0.01% interest is almost as stupid as spending it on things you don't need. Your money needs to work harder than you do. Step 1 is building what I call your freedom buffer. This is your emergency fund, but I hate that term because it makes it sound scary and complicated. Your freedom buffer is just 3 to 6 months of expenses sitting in a high-yield savings account. This isn't money you invest. This isn't money you touch unless something genuinely goes wrong. This is the money that lets you sleep at night knowing that if your car breaks down, your boss fires you, or your landlord decides to sell the building, you won't be financially destroyed. Most people skip this step because it's boring. There's no dopamine hit from having money sitting in an account doing nothing. But here's what that boring money actually buys you. It buys you the ability to say no. No to the toxic job. No to the abusive relationship. No to the pushy car salesman trying to get you into a payment you can't afford. That freedom buffer isn't just money. It's options. And options are the most valuable thing you can own in a world designed to trap you. Once you have your buffer, everything you save beyond that should go to work for you through investing. And before you tell me that investing is risky and complicated, let me simplify this for you. Put your money in a low-cost index fund that tracks the total stock market. That's it. Don't try to pick individual stocks. Don't try to time the market. Don't listen to your uncle who thinks he's the next Warren Buffett because he bought Tesla at the right time once. Just buy the entire market through an index fund and let compound interest do what it's done for the past 100 years. Grow your wealth while you sleep. The S&P 500 has averaged about 10% annual returns over the long term. Some years it's up 30%, some years it's down 20%. Over decades it trends upward, and that's all you need to know. The system wins when you keep consuming blindly, and it loses when you start choosing intentionally. You now know the game they're playing with your paycheck, and more importantly, you know how to play back. So here's your challenge this week. Delay one purchase you were about to make. Cancel one subscription you forgot you had. Take that money and put it toward your freedom buffer or invest it in an index fund. Every chain you break makes the next one easier to snap. Remember, you don't need more money. You need fewer chains.